Hi, parents. This is Jeff Marsh, and this is Accelerated Composition and Syntactical Structures. So, welcome to Parent Night. What I want to do today is I want to walk you through our syllabus, and then I want to show you what our Schoology page looks like and help you navigate through that. So, on your student schedules, it says Accelerated Composition and Syntactical Structures. That is not the original name I made for the course. When I made the course about 15 years ago, I made it as a joke. So I originally called it Advanced Grammar and Rhetoric. And I didn't think anyone would ever want to take a grammar class. I mean, let alone 90 days of grammar. But lo and behold, here it is. And it is the most popular course for upperclassmen. And everyone gets to take this class, comes to take this class for a variety of reasons. But oftentimes I get them, mostly juniors. I get a lot of juniors, mostly because they are getting ready to take the SAT. They are thinking of how they can write a little more advanced for college and college applications and college essays, things like that. So there's a wide variety why I get kids to show up. But for whatever reason, your child has signed up for a grammar class. So hats off to you because you've raised a smart kid who wants to take a grammar class, which is awesome. So on our syllabus that we have, and it is available for you, and I'll show you where that is in case you want to look at it. But on our syllabus, we have a number of things that we are going to take on in our class together. So everything's broken down into units. So our very first unit we're going to take a look at is we call it The Secret Life of a High School Grammar Snob. And that is definitely Ted Lang from Love Boat, but your kids don't know that. And so in each unit that we have in class, basically what I do is I teach them from the book that we have. We have a textbook that I use for a number of years now. And what it does, it breaks down grammar into what I've always known it to be in terms of sentence diagramming, something you may have done as well. So the very first unit we have, we're going to take on the history of English language, and we're going to take a look at the very basics of sentence diagramming. The reason I like sentence diagramming, not only because I did it when I was in school, both in middle school and in high school and also into college, I think it makes a lot of sense for something that sometimes can be abstract, a very logical way of looking at a sentence, because a sentence diagram will show us where there are errors. It'll show us how the sentence is structured, how everything connects, and it basically makes it fun. So we get into the very basics of sentence diagramming, and that's where we are in the very first unit. And then within each unit, we will also take on vocabulary. And we're going to learn about 250 some words that will most frequently show up on the SAT. And we also learn a lot of mini SAT lessons. And so for this very first unit, we're going to look at faulty idioms, fixing run-ons and fragments, and also compound sentences. And so all this is then composed into one large unit test. And so they'll have grammar, they'll have some vocab, they'll have some SAT lessons all combined in that very first test, which will be next week. After that, we're going to get into verbs and sort of take on everything we ever want to know about verbs. Our third unit we'll have, which will take us in the beginning of October, is what we call grammar magic. Things aren't always what they seem. And so you may remember things like this. This might even seem familiar or might seem really archaic to you. But we'll get into some more complex structures. And once again, it'll help us understand exactly when the sentence is correct and when something's wrong and how to fix those things. Into the end of the first marking period, we're going to take on, there's a ridiculous phrase that was floating around for a long time, which was YOLO, you only live once, which is actually grammatically incorrect. So, surprise, the technology generation got something wrong, but it actually should be you live only once is how it should be grammatically. And so we'll take on what we call adverbs and all different types of adverbial structures in Unit 4. Into Unit 5, beginning of November, we're going to jump into more adjective structures. So this will be when we take on a sentence like, may the better grammarian win, if it was just between you and me, as opposed to may the best grammarian win. So we're going to get into a lot of adjective structures here. And then towards the end of November, we will then take on grammar that even other English teachers may not even know. This right here is an actual punctuation mark, which is legitimate in the English language. It's called an interrobang. It's a beautiful marriage of the exclamation mark and the question mark all combined. And so we'll take on just some really weird structures that the author kind of puts together in chapter 8 for us. Beginning in December, we'll get into subordination and coordination. This is really important. This is when we really get into the nitty gritty of punctuation marks, particularly the 4 punctuation marks that the SAT wants us to know. And so we'll take that on the very beginning of December, which was sometimes a time where a lot of my students will try to take their first SAT. They may take the PSAT, the practice one, in October, and they might try to slide into the December test. We'll talk more about the SAT here in a second. And then that'll take us all the way through the end of December, Christmas break. We'll come back after Christmas break and we'll take on pronouns at the beginning of January. And then lastly, and this is typically what happens, great picture, is that we celebrate our time together with Grammar Olympics. Now, before we had the situation that we're in now, this is how we would finish up our time before final exams. We would actually break into teams and we would compete in what we would call Grammar Olympics for about 4 or 5 days. It's a nice way of just kind of bringing everything together as well as getting ourselves ready for the final exam. And so that's usually what we would do. With the situation that we're in right now, I have to kind of think outside the box on how we still make grammar fun. If I'm not able to do Grammar Olympics, but right now I'm still holding high hopes that we'll be able to participate in this. So my policies is all you'll find with all the classes. 80% of their grade comes from assessments, which basically is going to be about 4-unit tests per marking period. They have these modeling exercises, which are these assignments they get and get to work on. They can have me check them before they turn them in. That goes under assessments, as well as any of their writings will go under assessments. So we have 3 writings per marking period, and all the parts that actually make up the writing will also be counted as part of their assessments. So their graphic organizers, their different drafts, and eventually their final copies as well. And in terms of writings, there's a number of things I'm trying to accomplish. One is I try to get them ready for college. So we will write a Common App essay. So whether they're juniors or seniors, by the time they leave me, they will have written at least one essay that they can use for their Common App. We'll also talk about the rhetorical analysis, which is the number one writing you have to do as a college freshman. So I want to make sure they have experience of what that means. We'll also work on the SAT essay. Yes, it is optional, but I oftentimes encourage kids to at least take it once so they have that score. So we'll actually simulate the SAT essay with a timed writing in class for the students. Among other writings that we'll do. And then the other 20% comes from our homework or classwork and our projects. And so we do vocab sentences with each list we have for each unit rather. We'll also do some projects. So we've done children's books in the past, grammar short stories, board games. We make grammar superheroes and villains, anything to make grammar fun. And sometimes we'll have some in-class graded worksheets. That's something that we'll be working on, and I'll let the kids know that, hey, this is something I'm going to collect. And so that will also go into the category of homework or classwork. In terms of a late policy, I have a pretty strict policy. I don't take anything late. And so they want to turn in something at the end of the day for half the points. Half the points is better than no points. And so because I'm so strict on my late policy, I don't get things that are late, which is, I guess, the benefit of it all. Now, because we're also working in sort of a blended environment, I have a number of kids who then might be turning in papers from home. So they also have some due dates for that as well, and timelines. And I'm trying to be really flexible with that, knowing that sometimes there are issues with technology that makes something come in later than you wanted it to. As for a makeup policy, traditionally I would have 5 days to make up any kind of missing work in case they miss a day from school when they're supposed to be there. And so once again, with this year, we'll have to be very flexible, making sure we have enough time to make up any work that may have been missed. And then lastly, if they ever want to look ahead or read or they lost something, everything's posted on Schoology, which I want to make sure you can see. In terms of the SAT, and it's something I would normally go heavy into detail with you if I had you in front of me at Parent Night, please contact me if you have any questions. And so what I know about the SAT, at least for the fall, is it's still on. They've increased the number of testing sites, and they've also increased the frequency of the actual test. So there's an August test, which is now passed. There's a September test on the 26th, May, I think. And then there's a test in October, beginning of October. There's a test in November. There's one in December, and they're tossing around possibly having one in January. Typically, they take a break after December and have another one in March, and then May, and then June. So for my juniors, I always recommend them take taking it twice, sometime in the fall, and then coming back again and taking it in the spring. And just to be looking at their spring and knowing, when is it going to be a good time for them to take it? Because some kids are in the spring musical, so March isn't always so good. Some kids are doing spring sports, so therefore the May and the June test are not always the best choices. But just to be planning ahead because of the situation. I know that law testing sites sometimes will abruptly close, and so the sooner you know that you want to take it on a particular date, get in and get a seat because sometimes they can be really hot tickets. But once again, if you have any questions at all, please please just simply reach out. In terms of what the SAT means, it helps them get into school, but it won't stop them from not getting into school. So, it's not like the end of the world. But what it's really important for is actually money for scholarships. And so even though some schools might be opting not to force kids to take the SAT to actually apply to school, just double check and say, okay, then how are you determining aid? Because oftentimes that comes from the SAT and the schools, what they're offering, it comes from that. All right, so that's what I know so much about the SAT. And so let's talk about how you can find things on my Schoology page. So let me change my screen here for you. There he is. Okay, so when you log into Schoology, you should be able to find something that looks like this. These are grammar crackers, and so you'll click on it, and that'll take you into our course. Very slowly. There we go. And so the units will be listed here. So we're still in our first units. This is weeks 1 through 3, our very first unit. And so when the students are here, they'll be able to click on this and actually see their assignments. Along the side, this is their calendar. So they'll be able to see that. Because I'm running 3 different classes, I sometimes have one single due date. Sometimes I'll have different times. So this would be my first period class, for example, coming in on at 9 o'clock. This is my third period coming at 12:30, and this is my fourth period coming in at 2. So you'll see that sometimes. But sometimes when it's like a Wednesday, for example, everybody's coming in at the same time, so everybody has the same exit ticket. They have to make sure they complete. So that's what's happening along the side. And you can always click on this little calendar here, and that'll actually take you to more of a calendar view if you'd prefer to do that. If you click on this, so this is just simply listed chronologically by day. Black folders are days that have passed, but I don't hide them from the students because sometimes you might want to go back and find something that's there, particularly if we're still working within a unit and we're getting ready for a test. So the black folders, once again, have turned black because the day has passed. The orange ones are where we are currently. So this is Monday. So this is going to be tomorrow. This is Tuesday the 8th set up for them. And then white folders are days that are going to be happening, after the current day. And so they can access these. And the reason that they're here is because some kids want to look ahead, and that's fine. And so they're there. So folders that are white, once again, are upcoming days. The orange one is the current day, and the black folders are past days. Now, if your kids are going to be working from home, you'll be able to see where it says at-home learners, and there's in-class learners. So I have my A through L kids are going to be with me on Tuesday, and then my M through Zs are going to be home. If they are working from home, they'll click on this, and it'll always give them the agenda. So if they click on this, it'll show them the actual agenda for the week. And right now I'm kind of working Wednesday through Wednesday is sort of the way I'm viewing a week, just because of the way that our crazy schedule is working. Right? But they'll be able to kind of see where the A through L and the M through Z columns are, and they'll be able to scroll down and see, okay, Wednesday's for everybody, but then this is my A through L, these are my M through Z's, and they'll be able to look ahead and see what's going on. Let's get back out of this. I'm not sure you can hear that, but my 8-year-old is upstairs screaming about something. Anyway, they have a daily check-in, and so they'll click on this link and that'll let them check in, so that way I can actually mark them present for attendance. You'll see their number of tasks that they'll have, and sometimes there are videos they have to watch. Sometimes they'll have something that they need to submit for me. All right, so it's listed there for them as well. And then if they are with me at school, let's see. If they're with me, sometimes what I list here is just simply the resources that we're using during class. So if they need them, sometimes they're there. So once again, those are here. When kids are submitting something, which is simply talk about that, there are a number of ways of submitting something. Sometimes you can just simply submit, and when you click it, it'll allow you to submit something electronically with your own Google Doc. and simply kind of give me a link, or you can copy and paste something like that. Sometimes when kids have handwritten something for me, and I much rather, I love things that are handwritten, particularly when we're doing grammar and sentence diagramming, things like that. So oftentimes kids will actually then snap a picture and then they will embed, or they'll submit the picture to me, and that also works as well. You imagine when your kids are so savvy with technology, it's crazy. But if there's ever an issue where they just cannot find a way to get something to me, once again, I am learning this as much as they are, and so we will figure it out. So that's how we submit our work. Um, and on Wednesdays, the kids are all home, but I am here. It's asynchronous on Wednesdays for my class, which means that I'm not meeting with anyone or meeting with my class at any particular time, but I am present at school and I'm available all day long. So sometimes I have a kid who wants to just be meet and talk about a writing or need some help. And so they just simply send me a message and say, hey, can we Zoom together for 15 minutes, 20 minutes? I'll say, sure. And we'll set up a time and we'll do that. And so they always have tasks to do if you want to look ahead at Wednesday this week. They'll have a time to check in. I have office hours. Once again, they can Zoom with me anytime. And then they have basically sort of self-paced work to do for me. And then they always have an exit ticket. That way they can kind of like punch out and let me know how things went. And that's how it all works. Trying to think if there's anything else I can tell you all. If you need me, by all means, just simply send me an email, or you can also call the school and get in contact with me. But it's an unprecedented year, but we're going to make the most of it. And I got to tell you, I only see your kids 2 days a week, but I enjoy seeing them, and it's fun. And they're nice kids. They're doing great with their masks. They're doing great with just simply treating it like it's a regular year and getting the most out of it. And so I'm so excited that they're here. So I hope you feel confident and safe knowing that they are in a safe, clean environment and they're learning some good stuff. All right. So take care. Thanks for stopping by.